is just as likely. Now, the reason why John O'Donovan was anxious to locate it was because MacFerber said that it was the place where the O'Dowda chiefs or kings were inaugurated.
Yeah.
And he gives a whole lot of history about that.
Yeah.
Now, as I say, the one in James Massey's is just as likely to be.
Yeah.
The reason he gave was that the O'Dowdas could look at their ships at sea from here.
They couldn't read.
As you can see.
Right, yeah. So it would be more likely than the Cairn one, wouldn't it?
Well,
for that reason.
Lots of people have accepted it.
Yeah.
You can see where part of this clay for the old settlement has been damaged by the quarry,
the
limestone quarry.
Yeah.
And that was done, I'd say, over 150 years ago, by degrees.
Yeah. This is the 4th of Owley.
I thought if I walked, you could see where, will you see the rise?
Oh yes, yes indeed. I thought he would be of great importance, wouldn't it? Because he ruled the land this side of the Moy from here, didn't he, Tyrone?
If this is the one, well, no, he had a number, again, MacFerber lists a number of the places, the kind of chief residences, and he doesn't really mention this one at all in that list. He mentions Rathfran, and he mentions one out in the Irish direction, and there was another one in Torero direction.
Yeah, and that's the other side of the Moy, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Just to the left of that.
There's a site of an old church.
Site of an old church. Well, it's practically covered in the sand now, but the remains of it are still to be seen there.
Left of that big stone there, isn't it?
To the left of that, yes.
Yeah.
Almost in line with where the trawler is going now.
Yeah, that would be called?
Champel Rhinon or Killeen Cormac.
6th or 7th or 8th century?
More likely to be 7th.
Yeah. Down there is
Starting there, yes, and the crossing there was Farsad Tracy.
Oh yes.
MacFerber gives that area then right down to the end of Steelon, across the bay over to Kilcommon. The ancient name for that territory was Cuila Cunnel.
Yeah, Cuila Cunnel. And there in the corner we see Cushlan Naguihe. Yeah. Down here where the sheep are, that was a marshy area, wasn't it?
Well, that's reclaimed from the sea.
Yeah.
Just to the left of that now, in line with the edge of the wood, there's a sluice gate there.
Oh, there is, down here.
And along, you can barely see the water mill, that there's a pump there for taking out the water. And there was the remains of a young whale found there when a man was gardening in that particular spot.
Oh, that's Jackie Lynott, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah, down there. Oh, yeah. This round fort here, this big area with the bushes and the firs and the trees.
Yes.
Killybrone.
That's Killybrone Fort, yes.
Yeah.
Now, there's a little story connected with 1798 there, one of these atrocity stories.
Yeah.
That when the yeomen were doing the mopping up after September 78, they came down here and they found a man digging his potatoes.
Yeah.
And they examined him and found a rosary beads with wooden beads on it.
Yeah.
And they broke it up into single beads and stuck it into a blunderbuss and shot him with his own rosary beads.
Yeah. Down here. Somewhere around here.
Down, yes, in Killybrone.
Kilgovan, that'd be an old church, wouldn't it? The church of...
well, Kilgovan then would be further along to the left.
But this is Killybrone, isn't it?
Killybrone.
Over there in that area where the cattle are grazing is Kilgovan.
And Bishop MacDonald's theory, which seems the most likely one, is that he got his name from this goban of land that extends out there.
Yeah.
Now, a little story about that. At the time the MacDonalds came here, the contractors had opened a sand pit there to find sand for the extension to the Killala church.
Yeah.
And the young lad came in home to his father and mother with a skull, and they ran him back straight away.
Yeah.
Now, in that area there was a whole lot of other human remains found as well.
Yeah.
But John Malloy closed that sand pit up, and he wouldn't use any more of it because the sand was being taken from the remains of an old graveyard.
Yeah, yeah. This would be the ancient road from
Yes,
into Killala.
over the top.
And this would be the line of it out here.
Yes. You can see that the foundation stones of the wall still there.
Yeah.
And it goes over the hill and down at Palmerstown Bridge then.
Yeah. Oh yes. Comes here.
Yeah.
Has a curious inscription.
This one has, that looks like a Greek letter, that looks like a P.
Yeah.
There's a cross there. That letter, I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah.
And whether it has any connection with the old church or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or it may be, as I just said, like the thing in Dickens about Bill Sykes and his mark,
Yeah.
that it may be very modern.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, whether a Fran Fair used to be held
Yeah.
on the 22nd of August. Now, that's the only interesting thing about it.
Oh,
22nd of August was St. Dominic's Day,
Yeah.
and that's the reason for having the fair on that day.
Yeah. So it
And
was down there.
That happened to be the day then that the that the French ships first appeared in the bay.
That's right. And they all came down to down to coming from there.
They went down for a look, and some of their cattle wandered away and weren't to be found for a long time afterwards.
Up here would be the house that Father Hugh Conway lodged in.
Yes, well, he was Father Michael.
Father Michael Conway.
Anthony Conway.
Yeah.
He was parish priest here from 1854 up to 1873.
Yeah.
Previous to that, he had been in Ballina, and
Yeah.
he went from here to Spree,
Yeah.
and from there then to Ballycroy. He died in Ballycroy about 1890.
Yeah. And this is the road up to Mullahorn, is it?
Mullahorn.
The steeple.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the steeple there.
Right. But next door then is the parochial house, you can see.
Yeah.
To the back of that, the church. Then the Chapel Lane houses.
And there's a grain store there, isn't there?
That's right. Well, one of them do
Yeah.
many stores.
Yeah.
Georgia Street houses then come next.
And the ball alley in the background there.
That's right, yes,
Yeah.
and McDonald's garage that side.
Yeah.
Then the Market Street houses there, the Round Tower.
Yeah. And back
We're
again.
back again to the
Ball alley, yes.
then another of these big grain stores to the right of the Round Tower.
Yeah.
There were a number of other grain stores there too, but they were demolished around the 1960s.
Yeah.
Killala was the central port, where most of the supplies for the area around about would have been imported. And as well as that then, the people paid their rent for their land in grain.
That's right.
And the grain would have been stored there and exported from Killala.
Yeah. So besides grain, like there was timber and iron and leather?
Slates, yes.
Yeah.
Leather.
Coal.
Coal, yes. I don't know if much coal would have been. Yes, I suppose there would have been a certain amount of coal used at the time. All the building materials, I would say.
Coming in through the port.
Yes.
They'd be sending the grain out to England, I suppose, would they? More or less.
Mostly.
Paying for the rent and whatever. Yeah.
Mostly from the records to Liverpool. A lot of ships used to come in ballast.
Yeah.
And bring a cargo of grain.
Yeah.
Now the average size of the ships would be about 300 tons.
Yeah.
So that would mean a good many ships as well.
Yeah, so it was stored in these houses here before.
Right.
Yeah.
The stuff coming in and the grain going out.
Yeah. So it was a busy port in those days.
It would have been until the bay silted up.
Yeah. This
But
up here, Dooher's Fort.
Well, they call it Dooher's Fort because the land now belongs to Dooher. But
More
it
recent
would
than
be
the other ones.
I would think so from
Yeah.
from the fact that it's bigger.
So-
Now, this land would have been Bishop's land. It was all part of Enoch Beg.
Yeah.
And this land would have belonged to the diocese at one stage.
Oh yeah.
And it was from the tides of this land that the clergy were supported.
Yeah. Now you're talking about the established church,
The
the
way back.
Church of Ireland, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, previous to that, this land would have belonged to the church from a way back, from St. Patrick's time, I
yeah.
suppose.
So there wouldn't be that much importance attached to this fort up here, so there wouldn't.
Except that it's a little bit larger than the average.
Yeah. Yeah. Killala Round Tower.
You can see the bulge at the side there,
Oh,
where
indeed I see it,
the lightning struck.
Yeah.
And that, through the bottom doorway, that's supposed to be 11 feet from the ground.
Yes.
Walls are 3.5 feet thick.
Yeah.
There's a story about that second window up there, that square one,
Yeah.
that in 1932, Killala people wanted to put a Eucharistic Congress flag, and they got ladders and managed to get up that high. And when they did, they found a name cut into the stone there, P. Timon, and they concluded that it was one of the Timones who hadn't time to finish writing his name.
Yeah.
And afterwards then, Father Jack O'Neill was looking up the names of the old schoolmasters.
Yeah.
And away back in 1825, the schoolmaster here was a P. Timon.
Timon. T-I-M-O.
T-I-M-O.
So he managed to finish his name, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah. Now, would you think there was it wasn't a ladder all the way up, it was
No, they had floors.
at different levels. And ladders from the floors up.
Yes.
No, yes.
And
None of that there now, no?
No. No, it was pointed last year. And
did they get a man to go up to the top?
they did, and they put a new lightning conductor on it too.
Up there?
It was, the same people, what do you call this Limerick firm who do this steeplejacks.
Yeah.
They repaired the top of the Protestant tower too, you can see that.
I know that, yeah. I saw them up there, all right, yeah.
The estate for the building of a round tower, according to the annals, would be about 930, I think.
930?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the latest one would be about 1250.
So it was built in between then?
Yes. Miss Stokes, who would be an authority on these buildings, says that there are 3 different styles, and this would be the middle class, which would date at about 1170.
Oh, yeah, very good.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, where the silo is over there.
Yes, the silo.
That's where the railway station was in Killala.
Yes. And Quinn has poultry ready, a poultry farm over there now.
Yeah.
And out the other side of the bay then were salt pans, which would be earlier on.
So the last train would have left here in about 1936?
In or about at that time. Now, through the trees you can just get a glimpse of the where the watering tower, the water tower. Yes.
The watering tower and the...
yes, and the engine sheds were beside that too.
Yeah.
And there were, I think, 2 good trains in the day. But Killala Railway never really took off.
Yeah.
It started about 1891.
Yeah.
But the Ballina merchants weren't that keen.
Yeah.
Now, previous to that, there was another scheme by Sir Arthur Gore from the Pool of Moyne up along that way.
That was near the Abbey?
Yeah, right beside the Abbey.
Yeah.
But the Ballina merchants blocked that one as well.
Yeah.
It was going to affect their business.
Oh, I see. Yeah. The single-storey houses there.
Yes. And there were 2 or 3 more along with those, which aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
Now, they were a cluster of Coast Guard houses.
Yeah.
You had 3 kinds of officials. You had Coast Guards, you had the ordinary police, and you had revenue police.
Yeah.
And all 3 kinds of them were here in Killala.
Yeah.
And this was the central station for Ross and all the other ones along the coast.
Kilroe and Enniscorn, I suppose, too.
Yes.
Yeah. I think they would be built at around 1837 to... That's right.
They were certainly there in the 1830s anyway. When they were built, I don't know.
Your man Samuel Lewis mentioned these, all right.
Yes.
Down in Kilcommon and in Ross and in Enniscorn after the 1798 was better and they got round to it, I think.
Yes.
So, they had a customs port down here, had they?
Oh, they had. Yeah. They had. You see, on account of it being such a busy port,
yeah.
there would be a certain amount of government revenue.
Yeah.
And when these ships appeared out to sea, the customs officer here got his boat and he brought out 2 of Bishop Stock's sons with him for the run, and all of them got captured.
Yeah. And they used one of them as an interpreter later on, didn't they?
Right.
Yeah, I remember that. Right. Yeah.
Now, you can see a red trawler coming in there.
That's right.
Now, that's not history now, but it's modern things. That's a Wexford trawler who came up here because he heard about the cod bank. And on his way, he had hake fishing nets and gear with him.
Yeah.
And just to see would there possibly be hake, he let out his nets and discovered hake.
Down here,
Down
off the
here.
Killala.
Out in the Killala Bay.
Very good.
And it's only a few years ago since they discovered the cod bank. Two types of fish that they didn't know existed.
Yeah.
And were sailing over them for years and years.
Yeah, yeah. Now down there where the wrecked cars there.
Yes, before that garage that you can see was built, it used to be a football field. And all the kids of the town, all for generations back, they learned their football there.
Yeah.
They called it the Pull Bui.
The yellow hole.
Yellow hole. The town sewerage, such as it was, goes through that as well.
Yeah.
And out there, it's an open sewer for most of the way.
It is, it goes away down here.
Yes.
Now, there was also a fairground there in their years, or during the same years, was it?
Oh yes, oh yes.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, that's probably the reason why they played football in it, because any other field would be too good for grazing.
Yeah.
And probably the owner wouldn't have let them in.
Yeah. And there we see the back of a grain store.
Ah yes, and you can see that part of that has been lowered.
Yes.
It was all the same height previous to that.
And there's another big one up here.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that one before.
Yes, and the remains of 2 or 3 more beside that. Down here where the red trailer is, there was a row of houses down as far as that also.
Yeah.
And on the opposite side where the new house is now,
there
were the remains of 2 houses there.
Yeah.
And where we're standing at the moment, right behind us, the tradition is that Father Nolan organised a land league meeting there, which was attended by all of this parish and some from Nakin and some from the other parishes as well.
Yeah. And one of the landlords joined them up there, yeah?
Yes. One of the Kirkwoods who lived up what they call Green Park now came, and he was given a rousing welcome.
Yeah. That'll be about 1870.
I would say about 1881, 82 maybe.
Yeah, yeah. Around 100 years ago.
Yes.
This here is George Street.
Yes. Just a little bit further along from where we are now, there's a photograph in the Faces of the West.
Yeah.
And you can see the skyline is very much the same as it is now.
It hasn't changed over the years.
Not very much. Some of the houses on the left, where the garage is now, there used to be a high wall into the way into the fairgreen.
Yeah. Now this here's the Catholic Church. And here's the Catholic Church, isn't it?
Yes. The part of it nearest to us now, that was added on in the 30s, the 1930s. Yeah. The rest of the church then was kind of reconstructed, but the older part of it is there from 1823.
Okay, fella, built away.
Yes. That marble slab was erected there at the time of the reconstruction. The sacristy is new. That shows that the original church, parts of it are still there, were built in 1823 by Father Patrick Boland.
Yeah.
The original church had galleries on each side, and where the nave of the church is now was the sacristy, which was very much smaller than it is. Inside, in front of the altar, there's no mark on it now, but the Father Corcoran is buried at the entrance to the sanctuary there.
Can we see that? We can?
We can.
Yeah, so there's a grave here.
Just beside where I'm standing now, there's a priest buried. In the early 30s, when the reconstruction job was done, the altar rails were moved out of it, and this Roman tiling was put in, and it covered over the priest's grave.
Yeah.
Another interesting little bit, Canon O'Reilly was very keen on Irish, and you find that the inscriptions on the chalices, the pedestals and so on, are in Irish.
Yeah.
That would be unusual for that time.
Yeah. So what priest do you think is buried down there?
Father Anthony Corcoran.
Yeah.
He would have been here about 1836.
Ah.
Now the date of his
Yeah.
It would be sometime, I think, in the early 40s or middle 40s.
Yeah.
He lived out in Raho.
Yeah. Down here. This, what is it, waterfall?
That's used now as a holy water stove. It could have been a holy water stove originally too. It's supposed to have come from mine. It was used as a baptistry at baptismal font at some stage.
Yeah.
And it finished up outside here.
Yeah. This part of the church from the 30s. Yeah.
From the 30s.
Yeah.
And in the early days there was only one entrance. This is from the 30s as well.
Yeah.
Funerals now always come the old way.
Yeah.
I've only seen one funeral for the Canon Anthony Timlin, God rest him, to come on that.
Yeah.
On that. Now, the burials to Ruffran go out that way.
Yeah.
But they come round the long way.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was the old way, come up here and...
No, this is the new way. The old way was to come round about...
come in from the...
Lane.
Yeah.
Yes.
And out here.
Well,
so this part of it here going across was the old church.
yes, that's there from 1823, and there was a gallery then up where the roof is now.
Yeah, 1823.
1823 it was.
Yeah. And the rest of this was added in the 1930s.
That's correct.
Right.
An old baptismal font in the corner here
there.
too.
That belonged to the old church, do you think?
It did. The new one was put in when the reconstruction was done in the 30s.
Yeah.
So was the statue, that's new as well.
So it's about 150 years old, this church?
Part of it, yes.
This here is Market Street up here, isn't it?
That's Market Street, right. And the houses on the right now haven't changed at all.
The originals?
Yes. And the two jutting out there were used in the year of the French. That's where they had the hiring fair, just opposite those there.
Yeah. Oh, I know that.
And there would be about the original.
Yeah. This over here,
This is the square.
Church Street. The square
This
here.
is Church Street here.
Yeah.
And the skyline there would have changed. The shop fronts would have changed a good deal.
Yeah. And that one there is that newsagent was where the guards' barracks was, wasn't it?
At one stage, which that was only a temporary thing, I think. Here in front of us now, there used to be another huge store, Robertson's Stores.
Yeah.
It was a 2-story or 3-story, I think.
Yeah.
And those houses in front of us now belong to the Cathedral, or they're called the Close, where some of the canons lived.
Yeah. This road here where the cars coming up now was part of the ancient graveyard that belonged to this church here, was it?
It was. At the time they were doing the sewerage scheme, they unearthed human bones. And when they were burying the cables for the year of the French, they also found bones. And when that wall right in front of us at the house was being built too, they got a number of bones. Now the men who were doing that had reverence for the others. Lay there for the dogs to pick up if they felt like it.
So when they were making this road originally, it went through the graveyard?
Yes.
But that's not the first time that happened now. It went through Kilgary Church too the same way. They did the same thing.
Yes.
Protestant Cathedral of Killala.
It was built that part was built in 1671 on the site of the ruined Catholic Cathedral.
Yeah.
And away on the far side from us now, there's still the remains of a doorway.
Yeah. Now that tower there was built...
I'm not too sure of the date of the tower now, but it was built after the main part of the building.
Yeah.
The tower was built later. 1818 is the date for the spire.
1880.
1818.
Yeah, 1818. Yeah.
18.
And this was
the sacristy then is later still.
Yeah.
I haven't a date for that.
Yeah. So do you think the Protestants acquired it before 1670?
Did they what?
Did they get this church? Did they take it away from the Catholics before 1670?
I don't think. Oh, they did. They did, but then it wasn't used. Oh, Myra McGrath was given Killala and Conry way back in Elizabeth's time.
The old deanery.
Yes, that's the old deanery, yes. And it's the headquarters now for the holiday home. There to the right of that.
Yeah.
And that was being roofed in 1798. And the men doing the roofing are supposed to have got the first glimpse of the French ships when they landed in the bay. and there were two old sailors, this is the story now, sitting above at the round tower. And they were the ones who identified, well, they were puzzled, because the cut of the sails didn't seem right for British ships. But the flags were British, they recognised that. And that caused the customs officer to go out. And he brought out two of Bishop Stock's sons with him for the trip. And all of them got imprisoned.
They did, yes. Okay.
Further, the outhouse is attached to that. There are two rows of the original slates on there, and they're much heavier. They're like flagstones.
Right.
Now, that's here is a part of the original medieval Catholic cathedral, and that was preserved when this was built. That's the only the only thing that remains now of the medieval cathedral.
That's the medieval Catholic.
Yes. And that would have been built on the site of an older one. And possibly two.
What kind of architecture is it? Gothic?
Well,
Gothic,
yes,
isn't it?
Yes, the pointed arch is Gothic. Right.
The shot of the ancient graveyard at the back.
Oh yes, and this part, down as far as the railings, is the Protestant section. The Catholics then were buried further along. And
where the bushes are down there, that's where the souterrain
is. Right, oh yes, just under the bushes.
We'll have a look at that. This is the souterrain here. A dark hole. Going out in that direction for the tower, wasn't it?
Well,
yes.
Well, we're standing over the souterrain now, and that was forgotten about for generations, and it was discovered in the making of a grave. Now, the hole that we can see there is down through the roof of the original souterrain.
This is the one here now in the corner.
Yes. Now, if the drawing will show it up, there's an outlet passage there. This would have been there, I would say, from pre-Christian times. And all the rest of this then was added in sections when this became the monastery and the cathedral.
So that was going for the round tower, was it?
No, the round tower would have been built as in afterwards, when this went out of use. The round tower, this was a place of refuge for the people in the monastery and for the canons and so on.
So you think there was an ancient monastic site here before?
Yes, I would say this is definite proof of it.
So it would be a kind of a safety valve.
A place of refuge,
yes. The time of the Vikings.
Way back. Well, yes, and then they discovered that these places were known by the Vikings, and the round towers then came after that.
So this is it down here then.
No.
So
it runs in that direction. The main passage runs along there.
Out to that tree.
More or less, yes. And at the end, you can see that there are two chambers there. There are three chambers altogether, and then there's an extra one. Well, that would be pretty close to the road now in that direction there.
So these narrow areas here were to stop people from coming in if they didn't want to. You had to crowd in there.
Yes, there were passages between the different chambers.
Whoever was inside could cut your head off if you weren't too careful coming in.
Yes,
right?
but this would be the main one. Now this one inside here could be closed off completely. You wouldn't realise it was there. There was a slab to cover off this part of the entrance there.
This is Gore Street, isn't it?
Gore Street, yes. Now, how old the name is, I don't know. I would imagine that it must have had another name earlier than that, because the Gores aren't in Killala all that length of time.
And down there in the middle of the road somewhere was Canon Mc Hale, wasn't it?
Well, as far as we know.
This is Gore Street here.
Yes.
Yeah. This is a
That's
photograph.
a photograph, yes, of where Bishop Francis Kerwin lived. And it came to be called the Castle, and the Protestant bishops lived in that house. The last man to live in it was Bishop Verscoil. After that, he died in 1834. It was disused then for a while, and after that then, it became part of the workhouse.
Yeah.
And you can see where the workhouse was added on to it.
Yeah.
Well, all of that has disappeared now. In front of you there, you can see the traffic sign. That would have been pointing into the left.
Yeah.
That would have been where those that first block of houses. That would be roughly the site of the castle. Coming along then to your left, at the end, at the gable of the second block of houses, there's the remains of the wheel pump. Now that's the only bit of it that remains of the old castle yard. The castle was.
Yeah.
And there's a wheel pump there.
That's where the blue pump is outside. There's one right inside, isn't there?
That's it.
Yeah.
And that old wheel pump is all that remains now of the workhouse. These houses were built on, the workhouse was demolished, and this row of council houses called Seaview Terrace was built in the place of it.
Yeah.
Further along to the left then, you can see what's now the town park.
Now that there is
That's the old wheel pump.
supplying water to the workhouse. And
Yes, and it would indicate that there was a well there previous to that before the wheel pump was put on it.
Yeah.
But that's only a guess now.
Have on the Killala? No?
I doubt it.
Hale. This is the park in Killala, isn't it?
Yes. And now, I'm not sure. Attached
This was the old park.
in front of us, yes, that would be the garden. Now, I don't know if that was the haggard or if it was the orchard. The tradition is that the orchard was in this direction,
Yeah.
and that it would be from the trees there that Matthew Bellew and the other 74
Were
were
hanged
hanged
after
in September
1798.
1798.
Yeah. After the capture of Killala.
Yes, that high wall, of course, was built when the workhouse came.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't have been there as so long.
And now it's a town park.
Yes, with the children's playground there and tennis courts and so on at the other end.
Yeah. There's the road to Ballet, and here is the lodge.
Yes. What we can see now is in the main house. This probably would have been built for some of the people who worked in the lodge.
Oh, right.
It was built, I think, originally by Bishop Verscoil or some of his people.
Yeah.
It changed hands a number of times then. The Kirkwoods owned it for quite a long time. It was bought then by Francis Timoney when after Miss Gore's time, and it lay empty then for years and years until the present Lord Rathcavan came. He's Phelim O'Neill, who was, before he came here, Minister for Agriculture in the Stormont Parliament at one stage.
Yeah.
And the UVF thought that he was too liberal and pressurised him to leave, really.
So he came down and settled here.
Yes.
We call this Miller's.
Well, it's called Miller's at the moment, but it was built by a Miss Gore. And she's Perry not Gore, really. But she was known locally as Miss Gore. It was built around 1891, the same time as the Killala Railway.
Yeah.
And the front porch and these pillars and so on were quarried in Ballinasloe, and a quarry at Ballinasloe. The rest of the stone then is local stone, mine stone,
Yeah.
according to the information that I had. It was empty. It's owned at the moment by the Japanese. They bought it as a kind of a social centre, and in the yard, the farmyard at the back, which is very elaborate, but neglected and disused now, they built a sauna,
Yeah.
which they used for a while.
Yeah.
and that's disused at the moment too.
Yeah. So the present owner of this is the Japanese.
Yes.
Before that was Miller's.
Yes.
He was a miller by name and trade.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he had it up for auction for quite some time before it was sold.
Yeah.
And the Japanese bought it then.
Yeah. So the Japanese that came from up here.
They had a beautiful garden away on this side too, but it's just a wilderness at the moment.
Yeah. Right might be the disputed or controversial site of the ancient church of Killala. It's not on the map, but Killala. You wouldn't agree with that?
No, I would doubt that very much. In the wilderness there, there are 2 dogs' graves, and one of them has a headstone, and it just says simply Jack Russell. And lots of the youngsters think that that's somebody by the name of Jack Russell.
Yeah, a terrier.
Some man who was buried there.
I know, it's a terrier, breed of terrier, isn't it? Yeah. So this is the way into the sheds at the back.
Yes, into the farmyard. That would have been for the farmyard workers, and it would have been mostly to call them to their meals.
Yeah, and to work.
I would say, and to work. Yeah. Stabling, coach houses. I don't know what else. There are more farmyard buildings now to the back of that again, which would have been for the livestock, the cattle, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I suppose the coachman and gardeners and the various other people who worked here would have lived in the top section.
Yeah. An impressive looking building at the back, isn't it?
It is very nice.
Yeah.
It's Barrack Street.
Barrack Street.
And it got its name from that house at the end. That was a police barrack at one stage, but it's a very old house.
Yeah.
And the Reverend T. Pugar lives there now. He calls it the old deanery because in the garden there's a built-up doorway, and he claims that was how the dean used to get into the cathedral.
Yeah.
But in this house nearer to us, they've broken down.
Courthouse Street.
Yeah, well, that's the archway down from Market Street.
Yeah.
And the buildings on the right are new, of course.
Yeah.
The wall on the left is very old.
The original.
I'm sure it must
have been, yeah. Wow.
Well, you're going to miss the preaching house. You're getting from this side now.
Well, this is Preaching House Street,
This is
isn't
it. This is it here now. See the flats.
Oh, this here was the original.
Yeah.
What did they call it?
That's the Methodist church.
Yeah. And it was later a courthouse, was it?
Well, the courthouse now would be the one on that side.
Yeah. Well, there was a courthouse in here somewhere, wasn't there?
Well,
A Wesleyan church.
Yeah.
And I think
Wesleyan Methodist.
Wesleyan Methodist. Yeah. And the last man that was here was Niall McCormick, was it?
I think so. As a preacher. Now I don't know if they had this. He used to do preaching anyway. As far as I know, the Methodists, it can be anybody, any of a number of kind of a committee. I
think he ended up as bishop and.
Well, you see, they don't have bishops. They have a kind of a committee of elders. That's what that's what Presbyterian means.
Yeah. And I was converted into
flats.
Into flats.
And in the beginning, the Japanese were in these flats before they went to Ballina.
Yeah.
On the other side, then you have this sessions house or the courthouse.
That was it.
And that's how this street gets its name. It's called Courthouse Street or Preaching House Street. And further along, just out of view, there's an old pump.
Yeah.
And it's called Pump Street.
Oh, this is Pump Street down here.
Pump Street, yeah. Well, if you call Pump Street, you're making little of the people who used to live there. And they don't. The people who were born and reared in this street object to it being called Pump Street.
Yeah.
And at the back you can see that it's not long unroofed. More stores. They belong to John Tymony. Who was a successful merchant here. So did the row of houses. And the houses on our left now at Barrack Street. The one at the end was a shop and also a hotel. You can see that some of the old stores are still there.
Yeah.
These houses were occupied up to about 10 years ago.
On the right?
The ones on the right.
Yeah.
these are the old people's homes that the council built. And you can see again the remains of another grain store half demolished there.
Oh, I do indeed. Now, these are some of the ancient houses of Killala here on the right, aren't they?
Well, they would be in between.
In between?
When we go to the top of the road there, across the road and away up to your right on the acres were some of the older single-storey houses.
Yeah. Well, this was a hotel here, wasn't it?
Well, just round the corner.
Yeah. This was a hotel once. Timoney's.
Yes. Part of the John Timoney's establishment at one time, too. He started life as a shop boy, served his time just as everybody else did at that time. They had to do a 5 years apprenticeship.
Yeah.
Then he branched out on his own and did very well. Now, here and there throughout Killala, you get big, massive beams of pitch pine.
Yeah.
That were imported by him into Killala and used in the buildings. Some of them are still preserved.
Yeah.
There's a little story now about this man, John Timoney, and Anthony Carroll. The story is that both of them left as boys from the village of Ballyduffy in Argonne Parish to serve their time. And this man finished up owning half of Killala, as according to the story, and the other man finished up owning the half of Crossmolina.
Yeah. So this is the man that owned this hotel here eventually.
Yeah. And like all stories, there's a little bit of exaggeration in it.
And there's probably a bit of truth involved in it too.
Oh yes, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Tall woman. The site of an old school. What was it called?
Well, it was an Erasmus Smith school.
Yeah.
This Smith from William Country, and he got a whole lot of land. And as a means of safeguarding some of his land, he gave money for the building of schools. And it was badly administered. But at any rate, the schoolmasters and the pupils who should be getting the money got very little of it. Yeah. That was one of them.
Protestant school, of course, wasn't it?
By and large, yes, it was nominally they were supposed to be open for everybody. Now, the name I can't recall at the moment. Switch on.
So 1846.
1846. The master of the Erasmus Smith School here was Michael C. Hare.
Yeah.
I don't know anything more about him though.
Yes. So this was the old infirmary.
Yeah, during the cholera times.
Yeah.
And it's practically in the same state now as it was then, at least in its outline anyway.
Yeah.
And in 1846 we have a list of the professional people who were in Killala at the time, and the doctor's name in the dispensary was Charles Nielsen, Neilson.
Yeah.
Now, some of the people who died of the cholera were buried further along.
Yeah, they were buried
on the
out here somewhere.
Yes. First turn on the right after you pass Kevin Munley's house.
It's called the Cholera Burial Ground, wasn't it?
It was. But I wouldn't think that all of the people who died from the cholera were buried there. Just the ones who probably didn't have any near relatives to bury them.
Yeah.
And the reason I think that they were buried there, now this is only my guess, is that it would have been on the side of the old road.
Yeah.
And by that time, the road that we're on now had been built, and it was a kind of a no man's land.
Yeah. Well, the old road would have come up through the acres.
Yes.
Yeah.
It bore left to where Very Munley's house is now, and along the top of the ridge. And it came out there at the Cholera Burial Ground. Yeah. And further along then at the turn for Racash, it came to meet that road.
Yeah.
And went up then through Maharabrank and on by Rocker.
Down here is the Cholera Burial Ground. Down here somewhere. This is the road that leads to it. In and around here. This is Market Street, but...
Market Street at present. But on the older map now, and in the Griffin valuation, this is down as Hill Street.
Hill Street.
We've just come out of what you find that's Market Street on the map, when we call it Barrack Street now. Right from the Cruisekill Lawn here along, there used to be a number of houses, and this is William Street. Johnny Lynn's is the first house on William Street.
Yeah.
There were houses all along here now. Just above where that lorry is, where that blue lorry is, was
This one here.
Anthony Finnerty's house, who was a schoolmaster here in 1846. And in front of us now you can see the remains of a cluster of houses too.
Yeah.
Now, up to about the 1930s, there were 3 houses coming out there in line with the lorry on the other side. So that to get up to the church, you had to kind of do an S turn.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Now, that row of houses there, because they were small, the people with the chlorines who used to sell the cockles and the dillisk, a whole lot of them lived there. And the local name that the Killala people had for it was the Shelburne.
Yeah, I heard about that. Was there some fella had a forge down here?
Yes, I don't know where it is. I can show you the place where they used to shoe the wheels.
Yeah.
It's blotted out now. It was nearer down to the shore, so as to be near the water.
Yeah. Up here where the bar alley is, the ancient site of a schoolhouse around 1856, and the teacher that worked on it would be over here in one of these houses, Anthony Finnerty. And the old church was just above that again. Chapel Lane here.
It's still part of Chapel Lane.
Yeah, from the shore up to the...
And just right on the point below at the corner now is the place where they used to, the blacksmiths used to shoe the wheels.
Oh yeah, we'll get a closer look at that. And the wooden pail there.
Yes, yeah. About halfway in that, it was recessed, kind of a semicircle there.
Yeah.
And there was a circle of stones. And they used to build their fire then and shoe their wheels there. And they were near the water.
Cooling off the iron.
Cooling off the iron.
These were the wheels for the carts.
Carts, carriages, all sorts of wheels.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there would have been a number of sidecars and a few coaches too, I'm sure.
Yeah. More coaches, that's right. Over here, Shore Road.
Yes, out to the Shore Road.
Moving on this direction.
Yes. And the other one then was the entrance to the railway station.
Railway station, yeah. Now these houses along here would be where we had them before, we talked about them, where the...
yes, where the coast guards used to live.
Used to live.
Well, they were here now from before Ross was built. And
Yeah.
you can see the outhouses here,
Yeah.
the remains of more houses. And even on that wall along there you can see the where windows and doors were built up, right as far as the corner here.
Yeah. Customs and coast guards and the likes.
Yes.
And there was the main station there for Inniscrone and for...
Well, I don't know about Inniscrone now. I think Pullaheny belonged in with the Sligo district. But it was a Killala district, which took in Ross and all along the north coast.
Yeah.
And there was a new Coast Guard district then, with Balmullet as a headquarters.
No, there's nothing much
These
there.
are more stores now for the key. They belong to the co-op at the moment.
Yeah.
And well, you can see where the big drag line is. That was the main quay. There's a little one here to the side where that trawler is moored.
Oh, there is, yeah.
A smaller one, smaller jetty.
Would that have been the... So that there is part of the old quay.
Yeah. Yes.
And outside there is Green Island.
Green Island. Yeah.
Owned by Kirkwood.
Yes. Well to do.
Used for grazing, I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah. And later I think it was owned by Dr. McNulty that lived here, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And being so near the town, it's very handy because it's a very fertile piece of ground.
Yeah. Up ahead there, the Anglican Centre that...
No. Anglican Centre is to the
it's
left.
up here, yeah.
Yes. And...
that was the crab factory up there.
Yes, they belonged to McLaughlin Fisheries, and they did very well and there was great demand for their products, but it was a cash shortage, I think, that caused his downfall. It belongs now to Jackie Clark.
Yeah. Didn't survive.
Well, it didn't survive as a crab factory, but it's doing well at the moment.
So Jackie Clark stores fish there in cold rooms that he buys from the fishermen down here, is that it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think he's an agent. He's an agent for Clayton Love, or used to be an agent for Clayton Love in Dublin.
Yeah.
Along to your right then is the more modern fish co-op.
Belong to the locals,
Belong to the local co-op.
Yeah. You can buy it cheaper here than you usually would in town, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
at the moment.
Yeah.
But you'll find that that'll get tied up too before very long.
Yeah. And here is the Anglian Centre, not used anymore now as
Yes.
an Anglian Centre.
Now, a little bit further along, above that, you're into your left, there's a new advanced factory, which is doing very well in furniture.
What does it here, is it?
Furniture suites. No, you can.
An advanced
This is
factory.
Well, it was built as an advanced factory, and it's being used now as a furniture factory.
Oh yeah.
And they make very nice suites.
Furniture.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah, Crest Furniture.
That's it. Yes, that's their trademark.
Yeah.
Here left now starts with we can walk around that now. You see. Where this? I started with the launch now there, away on the left.
Yeah.
That was Perry's at one time. There were Kirkwoods lived there. Miss Gore lived in the trees. You can just see the roof of one of the outhouses.
Yeah.
And there's a number of stories about the Kirkwoods. There were two different families of Kirkwoods who were first cousins, and at this stage in their lives, each of them owned about half of Killala. There was a family dispute, and neither side would. One side would win, say, on one occasion, and the opposite side then would win the next lawsuit. And the Bucks were lawyers for one lot, and the McCormicks were lawyers for the other. And the Kirkwoods beggared themselves anyway over law, and the Bucks and the McCormicks fell in for their property, because they couldn't afford to pay them in cash, so they pay them in house property.
Yeah.
And the result is now that Killala is roughly, the older part of Killala is owned roughly half and half by the Bucks and
the McCormick. Yeah. I believe the Kirkwoods were fairly well disposed towards the poor of the area at the time.
Oh, indeed they were, and so was Miss Gore, very charitable.
Yeah.
And the fact that the bishop was living here up till 1834, the last Protestant bishop of Killala and Conwy who lived here was Bishop Verscoy. And the fact that the bishops moved out was a loss to Killala. In 1798 it is estimated that the bishop's revenue from all sources would be roughly about £3,000, and that was big money at that stage.
Yeah.
Well, they had people working for them, their horses and their land and their farm implements and all the rest.
Yeah. Employment locally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Between blacksmiths and wheelwrights and carpenters and joiners and masons and all the others, they gave a good deal of employment.
Yeah. Kirkwoods they were prosperous too, weren't they?
Oh, they were, yes. And Killala itself, at that time, there was a lot of business done through the quay here.
Yeah.
And it was as merchants that they made their money, and then the banks didn't, well, they existed all right, but they weren't used as much as they were now.
Yeah.
So people invested their money in land usually and house property and so on.
Yeah.
So their profits went into local effort as well.
Yeah. Do you think they may have held commissions in the Cromwellian army originally and acquire this land down here because they wouldn't really be paid by Cromwell for services rendered in the army?
I don't know. I wouldn't
You
like
don't
to
know.
say one way or the other.
Well, there was colonels and captains, weren't there?
Oh, they were.
Yeah.
Oh, they were. It was a point of honour. Usually they went into colonial services.
Ah, yeah.
Because the bigger jobs nearer home would have been kept for the Friends of the Establishment.
Yeah.
And these people would be allowed to serve in India and the colonies and so on.
Yeah. All right. Kilroe, the church made of the red sandstone. Here is Brookview House, once lived in by Captain Werner. Now we're still in the townland of Killala. Kilroe is on the left of the stream. And there's Kilroe Bridge where the truck was stopped now.
Railway crossing.
Went up that direction, didn't it?
It did. And right, there's a bridge where we stopped first there now, looking at the at McManaway's house, McManaway's turn, and the railway ran in there. Well, the original road, the old road, went down the other side of this, what used to be the railway cottage now, and came out at the corner below.
Down at the corner?
Yeah. So this road will be built since 1891, where we are now.
And we are in Kilroe?
Just in Kilroe now.
Yeah. No, that's stone down there.
Well, it's not a square top. It has a rounded top. I don't know what it is. It could be an old pagan burial site with a marker, or it could equally well be a boundary marker. Seeing that it's so near the edge of Kilroe, it might possibly be a boundary mark from there. But I don't know. Even that much is a guess.
It's a very old stone anyway, isn't it?
It is.
This is near mine here, and this is the site of the old church.
The old church at Kilroe, yeah. That now it is the remains of one of the oldest buildings in this area. Well, there's not much of the Kilroe remains to be seen from here now. The dimensions is it was 24 feet long by 18 wide, and at the time the ordnance survey was done, there was a window to be seen, and that's a drawing of the window given in the ordnance survey letters. The foundation stones are extra large, and the guess is that it got called the Red Church because the foundation stones, a number of them are built from these red sandstones. Yeah. One of these, the dimensions is given as 5 feet long by 20 inches high, and there's another stone 3 feet 8 inches square. Now
one of the oldest churches in the country, was it?
Well, in this part of the country anyway.
Yeah.
It goes back to patrician times, I think. Now, Bishop MacDonald, writing about this, thinks that Kilroe is a later name for it, that this would be the site of one of the earlier shrines, and that it would be called after some saint.
No,
the row would be from the red sandstone.
Yeah. So you don't give any credence to Rose Church as Donovan has it down in it?
Yeah. No, I wouldn't think. I wouldn't think so. No. This Kilroe Church is mentioned in the papal letters a number of times. There's
Townland of Killala. See, Field of the Sand, Mulahorn Fort, Tabernacle. Called burial ground. On the top, Town Plots West, and on the right, Town Plots East. townland of Kilroe Brookview House. Kilroe, the townland. The old railroad running through it. And the level crossing. And we just stopped a few minutes ago on the site of the old church, Kilroe. So this is the townland of mine from here on.
Yes. I would think that the townland got its name now from the fact that it's a plain.
A little
A
plain.
little plain.
Yeah, mine.
And, well, it's sand hills really, up and down, but it's about the only plain there is.
It's battlefield
We'll
town.
soon get it now.
This over here is standing stone.
Standing stone of mine.
Yeah.
And it's said to be the site of the Battle of Mine. But my theory is now that that stone is much older, that that's there since pagan times. It would be very much like the Breistia stone, I think. Now the Battle of Mine was 1281.
Yeah.
And that was the time the Normans struck root in this area.
Yeah.
And William Warren of Mina was the man who defeated the Cusics according to the records.
Yeah. But there were more involved into one. There was the Petties and the Linets
and Linets, yes. And
and others.
yes. Well, this I think was a dispute between themselves as to who should settle in this particular part.
Well, the O'Dowdas too involved in it.
Well, the O'Dowdas, they were driven